On this episode of AV Week, we are live from sort of Barcelona, Spain at ISE, Integrated Systems Europe 2022. We sit down with a cast of characters talking about the industry, whether or not trade shows are back, and the beauty of Barcelona. All that and more, next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 560, recorded Friday, the 13th of May, 2022, live from ISE 2022.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sennheiser.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host, and it's very hard for me to talk because this is day 4 of ISE 2022. We are coming to you from the Fira Gran Via. Is that right, Mike?
Gran Via.
Gran Via. See, I'm still learning this place in Barcelona for ISE, Integrated Systems Europe 2022. With me, and I'm just making a habit of this because I like these two guys, is first and foremost the reason that we're all here is Mr. Mike Blackman from ISE. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you again, as
Absolutely.
usual.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mr. David Buskus, CEO of AVIXA.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have these two gentlemen from time to time on these shows, AVIXA and CEDIA, co-owners of Integrated Systems Europe. But Mike, we'll start with you on this. About 3 years ago, you were in Barcelona and said, hey, we're going to move from Amsterdam to Barcelona. There was a fair amount of consternation and wringing of hands and questioning the decision. Then COVID happened. and as smart as sometimes you look, you didn't look so smart for a minute. What do you feel now?
I always look smart.
You are.
Yeah. I'm feeling smart.
Good.
I'm feeling happy.
Good.
He's smiling. That's important.
That is important.
This was actually 4 years ago we made the decision, and 3 years ago on Monday this week, was the day when we brought our top 250 exhibitors here to Barcelona to show them this venue.
Very cool. And so now we're back in person.
We really are back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When you walk through the floor, everyone's happy. We actually have a luxury problem. We have a lot of exhibitors now coming back saying we need more space for next year, because they were looking at this very conservative and saying, okay, we're not sure how this is going to be.
Yeah.
But they're all saying we've had high numbers, but great quality.
Yeah.
And that's, they're coming back and saying, can we get more space? Some of them we can satisfy, some we can't, because they want that more space in the same position. And when we have contracts for the other people around them, it's almost impossible to do.
So real quick question about that, because again, I'm still learning the theory here. Do you have more space?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do. That was the other question that came. What happens when we outgrow Barcelona? Well, they're going to build another hall across the street anyway, 40,000 square meters. Yeah. And if it's if it's still too small, well, I think that'll be a great problem to have.
Maybe you can build your own then at that point. Mr. Labuscus, from AVIXA's standpoint, one of the things that you guys utilize Integrated Systems Europe for, obviously connecting with members and manufacturers as well as dealers and more end users. What was one of the things that you guys were able to kind of pull out of this week when it comes to your membership?
Well, honestly, I've never seen as excited a crowd as we had at the AVIXA booth this year. You were sort of bantering about he's smiling, I'm smiling, that's important. Yeah. Really, what's important is the exhibitors smiling and the attendees smiling. And there's nobody that walked through this trade fair this week and wasn't smiling. I've actually rarely seen people this happy on the last day of a trade show. Usually we're all The Walking Dead and zombies by this point.
Yep.
We spent a lot of time focusing our messaging on the Exchange platform that we've recently released.
Yep.
And activated that significantly. We also delivered a lot of really profound content in regards to the AV Experience Zone, the various different council programs on diversity,
Yep.
It's really not about AVIXA connecting with others, it's about AVIXA facilitating connections among the industry participants. We all came through the door hungry for that, starving for that. So maybe it was easier to deliver that, but I also think it's a reflection of the work that the team's done in really driving content that would enhance the presentations from the exhibitors.
Okay.
It's been a blast.
Mike, one of the common refrains or one of the common feedback that I kept getting this week in talking to manufacturers and talking to the exhibitors was, it's just good to be back.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back in front of people. It's good to be back in front of customers and feedback. What were some of the things that you guys were able to accomplish in even making that even more so, right? You got a couple of not a couple, you have a number of spaces in the theater here that facilitate that encourage that. But what were some of the other ways that you guys were able to kind of heighten that it's good to be back sense?
Well, I mean, there were a few things we did. One was to actually, as you said, create spaces. I think I've used this analogy with you before, that I see a show like being a magazine. Mm-hmm. You have the advertising, you have the editorial. The exhibitors are the advertising, and we as the publishers are responsible for the editorial. We have to curate content, and that means features, that means conferences, whatever else we put in here that's neutral for our exhibitors and attendees to, or rather attendees, to learn more about what they can do. One of the things we really pushed this year was trying to get the end users, the corporate end users in here. Yeah. And we've had a lot of them across the floor, a lot local, but we've seen a rise from Southern Europe, so France, Italy, etc., people coming in from there who are final customers. So we try to put more in place to actually accommodate them, to give them more experiences at the show that they can then go back to exhibitors to find out, how do I create those?
Dave, have you seen a difference in the makeup of the membership coming to this show? As Mike said, it's a different region. Certainly Barcelona and Amsterdam are separated by a little bit. You've got a different region of Europe here. Are you seeing a different influx from your membership saying, you know what, it's either closer to me or it's more convenient to me, or I like Barcelona more than I do Amsterdam?
You know, there's a limited number of attendees here that are actually AVIXA members, which is something that obviously we would like to change. Yeah. Those who are members in this region tend to be sort of the evangelical participants of the AV industry, right? Yeah. And so they were going to come wherever this event was. Okay. It's our, primary supporters in the UK, in the Scandinavian countries, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Italy. They came to Amsterdam and they came here. So then you move beyond that group and you're into similar demographics that Mike just talked about. We're seeing the same thing and had anticipated that when we made this move, that we would have more Southern Europe attendance, less Netherlands attendance, et cetera.
Okay. Mike, as we wrap up here, we were already set up for next year. The 31st through the 3rd, 31st of January through the 3rd of February.
Correct.
Not quite a year from now, thanks to the pandemic.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But even with a slight turnaround, right, or a slightly quick turnaround, what's one or two things that you can talk about now that you have planned for next year?
Well, let's go back to this year and what we did. A few years ago, there were some discussions in the city here where there some protests due to tourism, and we were aware of that and said, okay, we need to get this city to be friendly towards us. We don't want the citizens, we don't want consumers at ISE, but we want Barcelona as a city to feel good about ISE being here. So we decided to give something back. And the first thing we planned was the mapping on the Fira Montjuic. And then by chance, as a result of getting Rafik Anadol as a keynote speaker, Casabatio approached us and said, why don't we do a mapping on the Casabatio? The result was, on Saturday night, in the Paseo de Gracia was closed, and 47,000 people came to look at that. That is phenomenal. I don't know how many we've had in front of the Plaza España yet, but again, these are two things we've given to the city to say to the citizens of Barcelona, we're here, we want you to experience some of what our industry can do. So this is what we're giving to you as a gift. And we want to do more of that next year as well. And we've got some exciting projects planned. Until we have them confirmed, I can't tell you. But when they do get confirmed, they'll be big. We've been discussing some other really cool ideas with the city of what else we can do. We're talking about other collaborations with other parts of the city organizations and government of what we can offer to the city. So we're working on that, and when Dave gives me the budget and says, yeah, you can spend that money, then we'll be okay.
So it all comes down to Dave.
He's
When
the
it
bad
doesn't
guy.
come down to Tim.
When it goes that, oh geez, we're all in trouble. Mr. Labuscus, we'll see you at your party.
It's in a couple weeks.
In about 3 weeks.
I was gonna say February, man.
Yeah.
He's done.
Oh, yeah.
Relax.
He won't. He'd be relaxing. I'm certain he has a meeting on Saturday morning, probably about 8 a.m. But we will see you at your party the 8th through the 10th of June
Yeah.
at InfoComm
Yeah.
in Las Vegas. What's one or two things that we can kind of look forward to in that space?
Well, I think you're going to see a continued momentum for the industry and continued satiation of this hunger and to be together and learn from each other. AVWeek is using that gathering of the industry to present the AVWeek exchange live and in person. Everything that we are doing is to help people understand the experience of getting to be a part of a community that lives beyond the 3 days or 4 days of a trade show, and provides a place where peers can teach peers, where providers can meet or where buyers can meet providers, where teachers can meet students. Everything we're talking about is there because I think that's the next step for us as an industry. We always depended on live events, and then they were ripped out from us, and we tried to live on virtual events. We all have recognized that virtual doesn't solve the problem, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't throw away the pieces of that engage our audience, engage each other on an ongoing basis. That is rich, that is meaningful, and the exchange platform, live and in person at InfoComm, is going to be an extraordinary experience.
All right. Mike, I actually have one more question to wrap this up. It's a question that I asked Mr. Labuscus at the end of last year's InfoComm. Was this a success?
Yes,
Okay. Why?
because our exhibitors are happy. They want to come back, and they want to come back bigger. What I'm hearing from the attendees, they've been excited. We had a lot of first-time attendees, which is really encouraging.
No.
And they've gone away happy. They've gone away seeing things that they should see.
All right. Very good, gentlemen. Mike, how do people find out more about ISE or register, or maybe probably not yet, but find out about next year already?
So go to our website, www.iseurope.org. Remember the dates, 31st of January to the 3rd of February, here in Barcelona at Fira Gran Via.
All right. Mr. Buscus, how do people find out more about AVWeek?
They can go to our website, which is AVIXA, AVIXA.org.
All right. Very good. All right, and now we are joined by Bren Walker from Kierkegaard. How are you?
Great, Tim. It's wonderful to be in Barcelona.
It is indeed, and good to see you in person for the first time.
I know.
We get to meet in real life.
Yeah.
So-
We met during COVID.
We did.
How many other people formed beautiful relationships during COVID?
No, I am certain there's a lot. I am certain there's a lot. Actually got to meet, I'll tell you that in a second, another person I met through COVID. But somebody I knew before was Mr. Ken Eagle, now with Hall Technologies. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Really enjoying the show here in Barcelona. Enjoying the venue this year. Wonderful change.
Yeah, absolutely. I got the person I also met was Laurent Massier from Netgear. Brilliant IT guy out of Paris. So, but I had met him through the pandemic as well. Bren, we'll start with you. We just talked with Dave Buscus and Mike Blackman from the folks that run the show. They're very happy. We'll get a vendor's perspective here in a second. But from your perspective, as somebody who works in the industry, what is your take on this show?
It was everything I wanted it to be, frankly. It was fantastic. As I mentioned when we were chatting out in the hall Saturday night, I stumbled on the projection by accident, which was just a beautiful way to start the conference with digital art. I love the way that art has played into this conference because I work in performing arts primarily. So I'm always thinking about what's that next way that we use technology. And in North America, when it comes to performing arts, we can be behind slightly in terms of what others are doing in Europe. So it was really inspiring to see that. And there were a couple of product wows that I had. And there were a few things that I'm immediately applying to my projects in design. So for me, it's a great success.
I want to come back to some of those product wows. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Cat Salon food is amazing.
It is indeed.
So.
Yes. Ken, as somebody who, you guys have a stand on the show floor, was this a success for you guys?
Yeah, so it's been a huge, tremendous success. Coming into this, you've got a couple of thoughts. Number one, we haven't gotten together in a few years, so you think this is great. It could draw a lot of people. We've changed cities and venues. That's exciting, but there's still that X factor. COVID's still out there. Some people still aren't traveling, and so you got to wonder, is attendance going to be light or is it going to be strong? And right out of the gate at day one, it was like, bam, we were just hit, and it didn't let up at all. It's been great. So from a vendor standpoint, the interactions have been tremendous. Appointments were made. People showed up for those appointments, and the walk-through traffic has been great. So, in my opinion, huge success.
All right, really quickly, you say the press continued. Traditionally, on day 4 or the last day of the show, it kind of falters out.
Certainly.
Did it still falter out, or was it still? Or was it going to be heavier than what you thought it would be?
No, today's what I thought it would be. I mean, there's some traffic. There's some. What we really see today are people who came by in day 1, 2, or 3 somewhere, then went and finished their shopping around and noted what they liked, and then they came back. So today we had a lot of repeat visits of people who came back and said, "I was here before. We saw something. Before we go, we want to come back and check it out one more time." Great. So we had a lot of that. The other thing that we have a lot of that's fantastic for a vendor is a chance for us to get out of the stand for a little bit and go see some of our colleagues and some of the other products that are out there too, and kind of ooh and ah over what everybody's doing.
Yeah, there are 6 other halls for you guys to wander. So.
I know. I believe I got my walking shoes on this year.
Bryn, you said product wows. So, what product wowed?
The Samsung, the wall.
Explain that, because I will, and I'll go off for half an hour.
Well, just the advancement in terms of the pixel density, it's amazing. And you can only experience that by seeing it in person, which to me is where, how we can best respond to the last 2 years is figuring out what works best at gatherings like this because you have to see it in person, and then what can we continue to do outside of being here for 4 days where we don't have to be in person. And that's one of those things you absolutely have to see.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-blowing, really.
Absolutely. What are one or 2 things that you can take off of this show floor and immediately put into projects?
Well, I had a conversation with L Acoustics, have continued conversations with them about room enhancement, and they have a new product coming that is going to change I think the way people think about that.
Okay.
And certainly in North America, where there's perceived to be, a single player or 2, I think that's going to open up the conversation, and that we won't be so locked into having 5,000 microphones and 5,000 speakers in order to achieve variability in the acoustics of a room.
Okay.
So that's one that we practically had a design conversation today.
Wow.
To start working on a particular project.
And see, from a standpoint of both Mike Blackman and a vendor, that right there is why they do this, right?
Exactly.
This is exactly why. Ken, when you guys are setting this up, what does kind of the next round of this, right? We already talked to Mr. Blackman, January 31st through the 3rd of February. Not quite 12 months, but about 8-ish. I'm not good on math, so but when you guys start planning, which you probably already have to, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah. Well, the thing where we are Hall Technologies, we've rebranded, changed the company a little bit, and throughout the 35-plus year history of Hall, we've kind of been more of a North American manufacturer.
Yeah.
This show really, for the first time, allows us to get out and reach a global audience that we don't otherwise get to talk to. We get to market to them. When we talk about them, we post online. We've even had webinars and such. But this allows us to meet those people in person. We made a lot of connections at the show, set up a lot of distribution partners in areas where we haven't been before. So on the next step now, we have distribution partners in regions that we haven't touched before. Now the next show, we have meetings and contacts with those companies and their local contacts coming in to see our products and show. That's what this is all about for us. It's expanding our reach and getting to meet people that we would otherwise never have an audience in front of. So we're really looking forward to that next step. And of course, new products too. For us, this is a great place to launch new products. We've launched a bunch of new ones here at the show, and for next year, we've got a whole new suite of additional products to come. We're really looking forward to that platform, that vehicle, to get those ideas out there.
Yeah, when I first came to ISE, that was that distribution, almost like dating app-ish, is the one thing that I was struck by when I first met Mike Blackman, and he was like, this is a way for manufacturers who are in one country to get themselves out there and to connect, and and a little bit like dating, where I'm a distributor in one country and this is my expertise, right? This is who I connect with. These are my clients, and it may work for Hall Technologies, it may not, but let's find out, right?
Yep.
I think that's really, really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bren, and I'll ask you the same question, Ken, as we wrap up this segment here. What's one or two things that you're taking away from this week?
Oh gosh, the one thing I think I'm taking away is to find ways to be more collaborative in design with people that I'm not necessarily directly in business with.
Okay.
And one of the things I appreciate about the conference and why I want to come back is to talk to more people about what's happening where they are. Regionally, we tend to design, I think, around certain principles, and those principles get reinforced regionally as the same players get retained to build and design certain things. And I find it useful to hear different perspectives, because while I have to be in the place to see the wall, design itself does not have any geographical limitation. So if I meet someone from Denmark who is doing something with an established piece of technology that we all know, but they're using it in a different way, that extends for me what I can do when I go back home to design a project. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that the design of what we do goes beyond the physical territory if we allow ourselves to. So.
Absolutely. Ken, what are we taking away?
Yeah, two things come to mind. Number one, Spain is fantastic. The people are fantastic,
They
and
are.
the food is incredible. So I wish I could take some of that with me when I go back. It's fantastic. And secondly, I think really big for me from the show is the fact that this right here, this in-person interaction, was sorely needed and greatly missed over the past 2 years.
Yes.
I felt like we did a really good job communicating over the world as a whole did a good job figuring out how to communicate during COVID and getting our network technology to work and allow us to communicate, but you still miss something with that. There's a human element that was really great to get back to, and I really appreciate that, and that's a huge takeaway. I think that also suggests we still need to do a better job with our technology, with our conference technologies, with our the technology we use to interact when we're remote, to make that experience better and more real. Because the better we can make that, the better we are when we talk remotely, when we can't do this face-to-face.
Yeah, I like that. Those are good sentiments. All right, Bren Walker, thank you so much. Incredible to meet you in person.
You too.
You're awesome. And I tell people this when I meet them and when we're talking about you specifically, and you do have some of the best stories that I have ever heard in my life, and I will continue to say that.
A decade with rock stars will do it.
It will indeed, but even beyond that, when you were doing your apps as well, that you've just got a lifetime of cool events. So
Thank you.
how do people connect with you or Kierkegaard?
Bren at Kierkegaard.com or Brenda J. Walker on LinkedIn. I'm not going to talk about Twitter. I don't have time for it.
But you're doing
I
the
try.
AV and the AM
I,
thing.
I do turn up
doing-
for AV and the
All
AM, and that's Bren Walker AV.
And we will eventually connect you with the illustrious Mr. Netto.
Yes. Yes.
One of these days.
One of these days. In Vegas, I'm
I'm
sure.
hoping. I'm
Vegas.
hoping. They didn't let him come to Barcelona for some reason. So, but we'll get you in Vegas. Ken, how do people connect with you or Hall Technologies?
Yeah, so I'm Kay Eagle at halltechav.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn and most social medias. We put a lot of information out there. And of course, you can always reach Hall Technologies at halltechav.com.
All right, final segment here, live and recorded from Barcelona. First and foremost, my buddy, Mr. Joe Way from USC and HETMA. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Neil Fluster from Crestron. How are you, brother?
Oh, I'm loving it. Back in person.
Back in person. Last time I saw you was ISE
Yes.
2.5 years ago, but that was in Amsterdam, and you know, things have changed since then.
It's warmer.
Okay, it is warmer, but we can't get used to that, right? Because we are in the middle of May. This is going back to, you know, the winter months. Still Barcelona, right? So, you know, I have a sneaking suspicion it will still be warmer than Amsterdam in February. I could be wrong. We'll see. But Neil, we'll start with you on this. You work for Crestron. You guys have a sizable stand here. What was your week like?
It's been awesome. Well, firstly, obviously, seeing people again. Okay, we've all seen this part of everybody for the last sort of 2 years, and now understanding that people actually have legs has been amazing. But the stand's been amazing from the One Beyond acquisition. I mean, everyone wants to come and see that. It's such a visual demo. We've had the live streams from New Jersey over with the guys to the booth, which is awesome, and VC4. We've launched VC4, virtualizing the control rooms. So the stand has been big. When I came in on Monday, and we saw the stand, we were like, there's lots of open space, but when you put the people in there, it's busy.
It is a
Really
bit busy. And it gets rather warm with all those.
What's
bodies.
going on with the aircon in Hall 3? I don't know.
I have no idea. I don't run that part of the building. Mr. Way, you are here all the way from USC, and if folks are geographically challenged like I am, USC is on the West Coast. So you're a couple of time zones removed.
Yeah.
What are you doing in Barcelona?
I just came to have lunch with you, Tim.
We did that.
We did have
It was
lunch.
fantastic.
No, you know, it's one of those things that I had to be here to kind of just see what our identity is as an industry. We went through, as you know, you alluded to, this huge global change, right? And the technology's changed. We started living on UC platforms for the last couple years. And I wanted to see, well, where is our technology now? What identity are we going to say we are as an AV industry? Because now, if I want to keep on top and I want to keep moving, I have to see what that is. And that's why I came out here. And I think a lot of the people who are members of HETMA are wondering the same thing. Okay, what is it? When you have a stand, what is it going to be? One thing, like you guys did fantastically, is showing the One Beyond, is having that esports there, having the smart home and the connected home VC4. And we're starting to see that in a lot of different booths, right? As kind of, you know, what is it now? Who are we? And what will that mean moving forward?
All right, Neil, I'm going to ask you the same question. Then. Who are we? What does this mean now that we're? What does this show say that we are?
Obviously, audio-visual is visual. We've got to see the stuff, as Joe said, you know, being able to hold it and touch it and see it for our own eyes. I think the interesting part from the collaboration side is the whole return to office, you know, and are we going to stay working from home? Are we going to start to go back into the office? Is that going to be full-time, half-time? The hybrid is the most overused word that I think I've heard this week and for the last 6 months, but that's the interesting part. As say, how are we going to structure this new world that we live in? You know, say, are we going to be at home? Are we going to go back to the office? From an education point of view, is distance learning going to grow, or are we going to go back into classrooms? How's that split going to go? So that's interesting stuff.
Joe, one thing that I'm curious about from your perspective is traditionally this show, from a percentage standpoint, 14% has been from North America, right? That has traditionally been. We have no numbers. We're recording this at 1:30 local time on Friday, right? By the time this releases, the ISE team will have released some numbers in the neighborhood of 50, 60,000 attendees. I have no idea what the breakdown is. That's just roughly what folks are kind of speculating. but that percentage has certainly dropped. That percentage
Absolutely.
of North American, and especially U.S. However, the percentage of end users, like the percentage of tech managers, the percentage of IT managers, I get that hasn't dropped in talking to manufacturers. When you come to the shows like this, especially the international shows, how important is that for you, for folks that are living this with this stuff on a daily basis, on the front lines, to connect with your counterparts on a global scale?
Yeah, no, it is very, very important. But what's interesting is there's kind of a tale of two shows between this European market. I still don't think they are used to seeing a lot of end users at a show.
Okay.
It, to me, is almost the same feeling as we used to have at Infocom like 5 years ago. Of they don't know what to do with us.
Yep.
Like, we know you're kind of important and you do things and you buy stuff, but we don't know how you're fitting in our channel yet. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. But vice versa, you go to a counterpart that we're going to see in 3 weeks, and it'll be completely different.
Yep.
They know how to treat us. And I talked about that. I got to host a little bit of a meetup with our higher ed people, and all still here in in Europe or UK. A lot from the UK came down, and they're saying the same thing. They're shocked to hear, like, oh, you mean your manufacturers never treat you differently? They don't treat you like someone who's just looking through the window in, and they actually let you inside the store. I start to noticing a little bit of a difference in this show. Maybe that's adapting, but I also think it took us 2 days to just kind of like remember what it's like to be at a trade show, right? We kind of had to, it was like this big buzz of like, all right, this is exciting. What do we do? And we're in a new city, right?
And a new city and a new location, and holy crap, it's big, and I don't know where to go, and I don't know where Hall 3 is, and where 7 is, and where do I find something to drink or eat or whatever. Yes.
Okay, but you figured it out though. You don't have to walk down the center. You can pop down the.
Yes.
That's this like pro move. So when we come back in February,
It's a top tip. I love
we're
it.
all gonna know. Everyone's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Trust me, I can get from 3 to 5 in no time.
Yep.
I'm there."
It's like the hidden back hallway at the ride between 7 and 8. So, yeah. All right, Neil, what's 1 or 2 things you're taking away from this week?
There's a new show. Well, there's a show in 3 weeks' time, as we talked about. I'm excited to go there, and they're so close together. So it's going to be interesting.
Wait, back up. You're coming to Infocom?
I'm going to Infocom.
Who's letting you in the country? Who's in charge of this?
Apparently, you still got to do a test and
Is
everything.
Dan in charge of this?
Well,
I'll talk to him.
really? No. Okay. I won't pack my suitcase then.
And you're gonna have to get used to a new venue there too.
I've never
Exactly.
been to Vegas, and I've never been to Infocom.
Joe A. We have some work to
oh,
do.
we got work to
I need
do.
help. So, I'm excited about that. And again, it's very close together. So I'm going to be interested to see the dynamic between the two shows. I think the other thing for ISE for me, the lack of badges has been really difficult.
Yeah.
Because you get all the people come and go, hey, and I'm like, you normally do the, oh, but it's the, how do you do that? I mean, that was interesting as a.
You copped to the fact that you don't remember because it's been 2 years.
I know.
And some of us have gained weight since then, and some of us have lost weight, Mr. Way, since
sharp.
then, and some of us have grown hair, and some of us had lost hair. So yes,
So that's an interesting one. Again, I love Barcelona as a location compared to ISE. It was getting too disparate at Amsterdam. The halls were kind of too. And as you said, this is, although it's massive, it does feel that you can do that nipping between
It
the
makes
the
sense.
stand. Yeah, so the layout and it makes a lot more sense, I think, than Amsterdam. And again, I think just seeing people again.
just seeing people
it's
again. I
so
love.
awesome.
I have heard that, and I am not tired of hearing that.
No,
I really
absolutely.
am not, because as many times as I've heard it, it just makes my heart do well. So absolutely, Joe, what are you taking away from this week?
Oh boy, my biggest takeaway, and I'll be honest, I don't just going to be a homer, but I have to say a huge round of applause to ISE, AVIXA, and CEDIA for just pulling this off. They did an incredible job with it. This was almost an impossible job to do because you don't know what to expect. It's only been, 2 or 3 weeks that Spain even said, okay, no masks, we're opening up. You have months to plan all this stuff. We didn't know how many people would be here, but the fact people have come, the fact that you had companies like Crestron, all the big ones that said, we're going to go big.
Yep.
We're like, I mean, there's like 50-foot ceilings in here, and there's some people that look like they used every bit of it, right? And that to me was huge. And so my biggest takeaway is good job to the industry, because we need someone to step up and say we're back, and I think they did that this week.
All right, very good. Neil, well, last words here. What are you looking forward to in the industry or just in general the next year or so?
As I say, I'm hoping there's going to be a lot more innovation. Microsoft has done an amazing job with Teams over lockdown and Zoom. I think there's going to be some growth in that, especially trying to get people back into the office. I want to see how companies are going to incentivize people to get out of their homes and back into that office space. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing some cool innovations around that.
All right, Joe?
Yeah, I'd actually agree with that. One of the things I thought was interesting, look at the show floor, and I'm going to compare it to Infocom, was kind of the idea of a lot of immersive experience stuff.
Oh
We
my
saw
gosh, yeah.
a lot of.
There was that immersive art experience.
Yeah.
You went in and it was a giant piece of art with soft music and what was it, 20-foot, 30-foot ceilings and walls?
Yep.
Yeah, just kind of, yeah.
And see, and that's the thing is we've had a lot of, since we haven't been able to meet in person, we've had a lot of like AV and the AV conversations. How will AV be able to work into getting people back to the office or whatever? I think we saw that.
Yeah.
Right now, are you going to go way over the top with what, a $1.3 million NFT that just got sold, shining up on a Gaudi museum? Probably not.
Yeah.
But the fact is, there will be a sense of we have to create an experience for people, and what I was actually shocked about, I didn't see a lot of is, well, how will that translate to work from home? I was expecting to see a lot of like work from home studio setups and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know where those were. I thought I would see a bunch of them. But who knows? Maybe we have a tale of two shows coming up. I don't know.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Of course.
Great to see you guys. Neil, how do people connect with you or Crestron?
Neil.Fluister@Crestron.com. Hook me up on YouTube, Crest TV, and Twitter, LinkedIn, all the usual suspects.
All right, very good. Mr. Way?
Yeah, don't follow me on the Twitters. Please go to AVNation for a whole host of shows and things like that.
You're stealing mine.
You can find me at Josiah Way on all the socials, and of course HETMA if you work in the higher ed vertical. You can find that at hetma_org and HigherEdAV at HigherEdAV. And of course, go to fuse.avnation.tv and make sure if you are an end user, you sign up for that.
Yes, and your podcast as well.
Yes, and HigherEdAV at higheredav.com.
All right, very good. For me, he's right. Don't follow me on the Twitters, but go by the website, avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv. You will find programs like this and a host of others. We've had an incredible team here from Popular Pictures helping us in Amsterdam. Good Lord, in Barcelona, helping us put together all the videos, and our team back in the States. So check out all the videos from the show floor of ISE. And we've got one with Crestron, we've got one with a whole bunch of folks, so we've been doing that all week. So check that out on the website, avnation.tv, as Joe alluded to. Fuse.avnation.tv is for all of the folks who are on the front line. We do have a Fuse party on Tuesday, the 7th of June, at the ISE bar in Las Vegas, so you can find out that information as well. And yes, kids, as soon as this posts, it'll be a countdown for 3 weeks to Vegas for Infocom 2022. So check all that out at avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.